LoneStar.com. Start your own podcast, create your first YouTube channel, and be on TV. Contact Lone Star Community Radio online at irlonestar.com or call the station message line at 936-647-3776.
Thank you for listening to Lone Star Community Radio. This program was broadcasted and recorded live from the LSCR studios in downtown Conroe, Texas. Lone Star Community Radio is supported by listeners like you. Donate and sponsor today. For more information on getting involved with Lone Star Community Radio, contact us at lscrstudios@gmail.com or visit us online at www.irlonestar.com.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us on the Cindy Cochran Show. We're so happy to have you, and we're on so many different platforms that you also could listen to us on the community radio of 104.5 or 106.1 FM, and as long as you're in the Montgomery County area, we're there for you. And if you drive into the Woodlands, all of a sudden it goes Spanish, and you go, "What happened, everybody?" So you've got at least 30 minutes, I guess, in drive time. so sometimes it's hard to guess how many people are listening because you on the radio part. But anyway, we have the podcast, the live streaming, and the Cindy Cochran Show is live streamed 3 days a week. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And that is all possible from our sponsor, the Wootton Financial Group. We love Chris Wootton, who's he's the guy it's named after. So he's the guy that you want to talk to, you want to meet with. And he'll do a kick the tires meeting, he says, with everybody. And so you'll know if you can work with him, he can work with you, and y'all get to know each other. But he is the financial planner that you would like to have on your side. He's been doing this 21 years, so he's doing something right. And, and he's still in the same building, so he hasn't, been kicked out or anything like that. So he's a good guy. And, I told you, Sam loves this guy. In fact, he was meeting with him this morning at 9:30. And so, and I know he loves whenever Sam comes in because Sam has plenty of questions and stories to tell him. But but Chris Wootton is a great guy, and once you start talking to him and understand the knowledge that this guy has about all the stuff that's going on in the financial world, and so he's the guy to call. Anyway, on the screen you'll see Wootton Financial and the phone number that you can call and make that appointment. But the other thing that I'm so excited about today is that I started talking about it, but I didn't know I only had like 2 more minutes to talk yesterday, and about my guest, my very, very special guest, is Kenny Noble Cortez with an S. So anyway, I'm having him. He's having to wait in quiet. Kristen, quiet. You're going to be quiet, and then I'm going to say, "Okay, Kenny, you ready? You ready?" But I'm this way I can tell some stories right now on Kenny, without Kenny. He can't say anything because he's been told to be quiet. But anyway, I love the history that we have, and I was like 16 or 17 whenever I met Kenny, and the next door neighbor, Mary Kalo, had a boyfriend named David Eckenrode, and David Eckenrode and Mary were boyfriend and girlfriend, but Kenny would always come along with David because they were best friends, and so David wanted to get rid of Kenny, so he said, "I got somebody I want to introduce you to," so he introduced him to me, and I lived next door to Mary, and so that's how Kenny and I, met, and we saved David and Mary's relationship, I guess, because they got to be alone once in a while. But anyway, he's a great guy, a most amazing guy I think I've ever met, besides Sam. But he's it's just amazing, his story, and we're going to talk about that. And he had a #1 book on Amazon, and I didn't know it was for an hour. I said, "You have a number one seller book on Amazon." It's like, I found out it was for an hour, so we're going to talk about that as well. During that hour, it was really exciting. And I would only concentrate on that hour, and every time I talk to somebody, I say, "I have a number one selling book," and then I would just stop the conversation there. But of course, now I've told on it. Okay, Cindy, if you could have just stopped talking when you said I had a number one seller, that's all you had to do. Kenny Noble Cortez, we are ready now to hear you, see you, touch you. I was going to say touch you. Okay, Kenny, you're on the big screen now, and I'm on the little screen, and so that's okay though, because I certainly bow to your expertise, your history, and all the time you've had on radio all over the country, and I mean nationally, and not just within a 5-block area. You are some big deal.
Not really. I'm not a big deal. But let me give you my resume in under 30 seconds.
Okay.
Born in Tampa, raised in Houston. My mother immigrated to this country through Ellis Island in 1939, and my dad is from Portland, Oregon. So once I got into radio, we moved from Houston to Bryan College Station to San Antonio, back to Houston, then to Chicago, then to Los Angeles, and from Los Angeles to Seattle back to Los Angeles to Miami, and Miami to Denver to Georgia, where I'm retired and living the good life now.
Yes.
Here in the North Georgia mountains. So it's been quite a life. That is where I get my name Cortez is from my mother. I did half of my career with my dad's name, Noble, which is my legal name in this country, but my legal name in Latin America is Kenny Noble Cortez, because that's the custom is to put the mother's maiden name last.
Really?
So there you go.
Oh, yeah. I learned something. That's great. I thought that it was your dad was Cortez, and you were Kenny Noble, and I didn't know how he got or why you added him on the end of the name. So now I found out that's your mom's name. That was your mom's maiden name, and Cortez.
Mom is from she passed back in '99, but she was from Bogota, Colombia, and of course immigrated, like I said, to this country when she was 12 years old through Ellis Island back in 1939. And by the way, legally, all right, let's say that up front, legal immigrants.
Yes, legal immigrants. I love that. That's right. And I'll tell you what, it's funny because you came back twice, and when you had met Kay, and you and Kay were married, and you were then in L.A. at that time when you first got married. Is that when you moved to L.A.?
Well, no. We got married in 1971 and moved to Chicago in 1977. Was there for less than a year before moving to LA in 1977, and then was there for a couple of years before I got fired, which is, that's what happens in broadcasting. It's like you're listening to your favorite DJ one day, the next day, all of a sudden, there's even no mention of him. It's like he was abducted by aliens, or she was abducted by aliens.
Or they go to country music, and you go like, wait, what? That's a rock station. What's going on?
Oh, tell me he didn't go to country music. Oh my goodness.
No, but you were on the Love Station in California. Is that where you were Love?
Well, there was a Love Station in Miami, Love 94, and that was a smooth jazz radio station. In LA, I was on KZLA, which became a country station, and then I worked for KHTZ, which was an adult contemporary, from 81 to 85, and in 85, I got my dream job as morning host of KLSX Classic Rock for Southern California. So that was just an awesome time.
That's, I mean, that's so funny because uh, the story that Kenny and I share is that once he moved, or once I think you'd gone, you were in the military, right?
I went to the Air Force
Air
Academy
Force
in
Academy.
1960s, well, 1965, and then I left the Air Force Academy in 1967 honorably. It was really hard to quit, but I quit because I didn't think that that was the life that I wanted to live, and it was really hard to get out of there. But I did. I got out of there and then served my remaining 4 years of my military obligation in the Air Force Reserve. And the cool thing about that is that I was able to serve with my dad, who was in the Air Force Reserve, and we both served from 1967 to 1971 at Ellington Air Force Base. They're right outside of Houston. So it was pretty cool that I was able to serve with my dad and go to weekend meetings with him, and also 2 weeks in the summer. We were an alternate Army Air Force unit, and so one year we would go to an Army base like Fort Sill, Oklahoma, and then the next year we would go to an Air Force base, like what is it? In I forget the name of the Air Force base now. That was in, I think it was Montgomery, Alabama. But that's what we did, and we were able to travel together and enjoy each other's company
Man,
for
that's
for four
amazing.
years.
That's
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
that's fantastic. And now, y'all, I didn't know you're such a military family. Like, and I knew that your son had gone in the military, and but I didn't know about your dad being in the military as well
Well,
with
dad
you.
dad was a navigator, a bombardier navigator on a B-24 Liberator during World War II, and he flew 29 missions over Europe, and then came back home. He was only 19 at the time. Um, when World War II started, he was 16, so he had to wait until his 18th birthday before he could join the military. And he joined the U.S. Army, and the U.S. Army became the United States Air Force in 1947. So he was in the Army Air Corps from 1943 to 1945 till the end of the war.
Well,
Um,
it was some. I guess I can't remember. I remember meeting. I met your parents, and it wasn't at their house. It was somewhere else. They were out, and I think I met them then. And when when uh, Kenny was Catholic, and and I was going to the Church of Christ,
uh,
and my mom was pretty dogmatic about things, and
Oh
she
yeah.
said
Yeah, I
she
remember your mom. I remember your mom very well. And when I would come to pick you up for an alleged date, I mean, I don't remember what we did so much, but I would knock on the door, and whenever I came to see you, which was as frequently as I could manage back in the day, uh, your mother would say, "Well, you know you're going to hell, don't you?" And and I mean, just as calmly and as unemotionally as you could say that. And I
yes.
would laugh and say, "Well, no, I don't think so," but and then it changed the subject. But she was always good natured about telling me I was going to hell, so I really appreciated
That's her good nature about it.
that.
She wouldn't let me date or go out with anyone unless they went to church with us first. That was kind of the criteria. And so I told Kenny that he was going to have to come to church with us. And now Kenny, mom, they were pretty strict Catholic, and so he was worried about what his mom was going to think about him going to the Church of Christ. And so when he
She
when we
wasn't thrilled
went,
about it. She would say, "You know, you're going to hell, don't you, Ken?
if you go to the Church of Christ, you're going to
If
hell
you go
too.
to the Church of Christ."
You're
Well,
doomed. No
can I
win.
can I tell the story? Can I tell the story about what happened?
Oh yes,
Uh, because you were a devout. I'm not. I don't know. I'm assuming you're devout now, but back then you were a devout member of the Church of Christ, and let's see, in 1978, Kay, my wife, Kay and I were living in Santa Monica, And Kay was instrumental in converting me to the Church of Christ because she was a member of the church, and because we had the discussion about if we ever had kids back when we were engaged. I said, well, they're going to be raised Catholic. And she said, no, they're not. They're going to be raised in the Church of Christ. And I just went, okay, because that was a battle I didn't want to fight. And so I became a member of the church, and then I became because I was interested in music, I was a song leader there at the church in South Houston, at the Main Street Church of Christ. And then when we moved to Los Angeles in 1978, uh, I was a song leader leading music there at the Santa Monica Church of Christ, and who walks through the door but Cindy Robinson. And I was shocked, and as I'm assuming you were shocked as well to
Yes.
see me up there at the podium leading singing. And so that I mean that was just that was that I mean the look on your face, your jaw dropped, and of course my jaw dropped too at the time. And so we weren't able to get really caught up until after the service. So there was this awkward time of half hour or so before we were able to talk to one another and discover exactly the story that I had to tell. And so it was I don't know, that was just ironic in a way that the
Ironic.
guy
It
that was
was like it had to be God decided on that so that he made me feel like I walked in and went, "Oh, I converted him." And it was I remembered when I got him to go to church, and he was so nervous about it that time, and we're sitting there, and I leaned over and I think I asked him like, "Okay, you know the Lord's Prayer, right?" And he like I know what? Do I know what? I said, well, they'll have to ask you to stand up and say it. I was just kidding. I was just pranking you. I didn't mean it, but it was like you got so nervous about. No, wait a minute. They're not going to ask me to. I can't do. And I said, don't worry about it. It's going to be fine. I told him no. I was just kidding. But I took his hand, and his hand was so sweaty because he was so nervous about it. I felt so bad. I really felt like my mom probably had no idea what we did in the Church of Christ, if we were going to jump up and down and run up the aisles and all that stuff, and you just didn't know what to expect. And when I've taken people there, as guests, I'll always start with, okay, they'll ask you probably just to get up and say a prayer, and that's it, and that's all you have to do. And they go, what? I don't know how to say a prayer. No, what are you talking about? But you were so sweet. You stayed, and your mother didn't, kick you out of the house or anything like that. And my mom, I hope she quit telling you were going to hell because
Yes, she did. You
okay.
have a sweet mom. She was very sweet. When she told me I was going to hell, I'd never been told that in a sweeter voice. So, so
That's
no, but I mean
horrible.
seriously, you have very very sweet mom, and I really I grew to love her. She was really sweet.
She's so sweet. Well, I tell you it. When I walked in that church and I looked up there and saw him on stage, and I kept thinking, that can't be, but it's got to be. You look just like any Noble. I said, so after it was over, and I walked up and I said, "Do you remember me?" And he said, "Yeah, Cindy." And so I said, "What are you doing here?" And he says, "Well, I'm married, and I've got my wife was a member of the church, and so I decided that's like, okay, we're gonna do that." So she walks up. She's so pretty, and she's so sweet and bouncing, and so, you know, really perfect for you. And I said, "Thank you so much for converting this guy and getting him in the right track." And all that. And he's not going to hell now. It's so exciting. So she was precious. And
Yeah,
this
she
is,
was. And let me give your viewers an update too.
yes.
Kay passed a year ago Thanksgiving. So this past Thanksgiving, I mean November 23rd was the first anniversary of her passing, and she had brain cancer, and that was what affected her greatly. We didn't expect that. We moved to North Georgia in April of 2020, and I she had been experiencing some numbness on the left side of her body, and I had insisted that she go see a doctor. And I held her to that promise within 2 weeks after we moved here. And there in the parking lot, of the doctor's office, which was located at the hospital. She had a stroke, and that was just the first time anything like that had ever happened. And the doctor told us to immediately get over to the ER, which we did. And the after a CT scan, that the emergency room doctor said that he showed me the scan, and there was a golf ball size tumor there
Oh,
on her right
yes.
parietal. And he said, we don't have the kinds of neurosurgeons that you need here. So we had to go to Chattanooga. So she went immediately in an ambulance to Chattanooga, which is about an hour and a half away from where I live. And then the next day they decided they were going to operate on her, and they did, and they removed that. And so the rest basically is history. I mean, went through a long period of trying to heal that, and it kind of worked, but then it just got out of control. So anyway, so she passed a year ago, Thanksgiving, and I'm just grateful that because we got married. I mean, she was very young. She was when we decided to get married. She was 17 years old and a
Well,
senior at Adobe High School, and I and we got married about 6 weeks after she turned 18, and we were married for 51 years. I was going to say 51 wonderful years, but any marriage that's that long is going to have ups and downs, and we did have
sure,
ups and
of
downs.
course.
And I chronicle most of those ups and downs in my book, Culture Jock, which I had carried that title with me for most of my career because I thought if I ever want to write a book, it's going to be about the culture shock that my family experienced as a broadcaster in a very a secular uh, part of our culture, which
Right.
is broadcasting, and which I'm sure you're well aware of that. So it was very hard to be a leader in my family, to go to attend church and to have kids and to try and raise them up in the church, and also be a member of the broadcasting community. It was a challenge, and so all of that and maybe more is in my book, Culture Jock.
But here's the thing that you didn't explain. And this is what I think, few men could have done. I mean, I know there are men that have done the same thing, but it astounded me. You kept her there at the house. She was in a comatose state, correct?
Yeah. Now, what happened was, um, she had she there was we had to go to 30 radiation and chemo treatments, and on number 28, they turned her away and they said your blood pressure was too low, and they couldn't do the radiation on her. And they said, go to the emergency room when you get back to your home. And so we did, and it turns out that her white cell count was down to like zero. I mean, it was like nothing, and uh, she had to go to the hospital to get a transfusion and of platelets. And platelets aren't usually just hanging around because they
Mm-hmm.
they only have a 24-hour shelf life, and so they had to call in uh, platelets from some other hospital in the area, and so that was at night. And then she said this, and this was right when COVID got started, and I had to wait out in the parking lot for everything. And she said, "Look, just go home, take care of our pets. We had a dog and a cat, and I'll call you. It'll probably not be until the middle of the night before they are able to get the platelets to me." Well, I did get a call at 1:30 in the morning, and it was from the emergency room doctor. And the emergency room doctor said, "You better get down here right away." She said, "We your wife had a cardiac arrest, and we just
Oh,
got her heart beating again, which it took 10 minutes to do that." And so after 10 minutes of not having any blood to the brain, it was as if she drowned. It was exactly as if she drowned.
oh,
And she was in ICU for 2.5 weeks, and then they said there was nothing more they could do for her. And so they suggested hospice, and they gave her to me to put her in hospice. And she was a complete quadriplegic, complete. The only thing that she could move were her eyelids, and she was mostly catatonic all the time. And she stayed in that state for 2 years and 3 months when I was her caregiver. And then
That's amazing,
uh,
Kenny.
yeah, and then that was all her body could take, and she
Mm.
passed a year ago. So it was like one long day, and I think any caregivers in your audience will relate to that. Being a caregiver, I mean, it's just a very demanding job,
Right.
and I had to take care of every need, and she I had to clear out her trachea. Uh, I mean, 4 or 5 times a day. I had to suction her trachea because she had one of the things they did when she was in the hospital was that they cut a hole like they would in a smoker, so she could breathe properly, and put in they put in what's called just a trach, and I also had to feed her through a tube that was attached to her tummy, and and then I had to grind all of the medications so they could inject them into her body, and I mean it was just that's
But
just what it
Kenny,
was. That was my
that
life.
that was, I mean, the love. The definition of love. Would have your picture next to it, but it would be the depth of that love, the width of that love, that you did all that. You had no idea how long this was going to last. This was,
I had
like,
hope. Also,
of,
I
of
kept
course,
hoping that she would snap out of it,
yeah.
and that never occurred.
And but you gave everything that you could do, and so this Thanksgiving, for the first, the year and the day that this happened, uh, Kenny told me that they lit a candle because you heard learned that in grief, in the
Grief Share, yeah.
grief share.
I attended 13 weeks of Grief Share, which is a national program and is usually available at many churches. Probably one in almost every community of size. And it was a 13-week program, and it was a good program because I took the course with about 20 other people, and we all shared similar experiences. I mean, some had lost children, some had lost their spouses, some had lost parents, and so it was good to be able to be surrounded by people who were encouraging to one another. And then there was a special grief share seminar just 2 weeks ago where I said surviving the holidays, and I went to that. And one of the ideas that they gave me was to light a candle, um, and then perhaps put it next to a special picture of the departed. And we did that. I was at my daughter's house in the southern part of the state, and we had a candle lit all during the 3 days that I was there, and it was but especially on Thanksgiving, and right next to one of our favorite pictures, and it just reminded us when we were in the living room that hey, I mean, she would have been a part of this, and so it was great to just remind us that her presence. To remind us of her presence,
Right.
and I thought that was a very special idea that they had come up with, and it's a very simple one too, but I was grateful for it.
I I love that. I thought that was a great idea, and especially it helped, and it was exactly what you needed, and you're going to all the right classes, you're doing all the right follow up, but does it help? Have you got skills that they've given you to help you get through grief, or does that all come from your faith?
Grief is something that most of us will experience at some point in our life, and I can tell you right up front, you don't get used to it, and the pain of loss. After, I mean, we were married 51 years. We grew up together,
Mm-hmm.
and so the loss was significant. And it doesn't take much to trigger emotions. A picture, a song, or just looking in the closet and seeing something that was very special that she wore. I mean, things like that. I mean, now I've since gone through the closets, and I've given away most of her clothes, and that was tough. But
Yeah.
I gave them away to our daughters. We have two daughters and two sons,
Oh, that's great.
and the daughters they took most of the stuff, and then whatever was left I donated to Goodwill, which I know Kay would have approved of,
Oh,
because she
sure.
excuse me, she donated a lot of stuff to Goodwill. So you know it helped on the holiday, but there's nothing that can take away uh, the um, the loss,
Mm-hmm.
really. I mean, they say time heals all wounds. Well, not really. Uh, I mean, I actually endured more emotions, sadness on Thanksgiving, the anniversary of her passing, than I did for the first 6 months, because it was just such a shock to my system. And then as time goes on, the reality of her never coming back really sinks in.
Oh,
And
brother, yeah.
I think that's true for anybody who has suffered a loss as significant as that.
Right. But sometimes you feel like somebody's diminishing your grief and all that by saying, well, now you're going through this stage and then you'll go through another stage and, and all that. But you have to get through it the best way that you can. And, and people telling, what's the worst thing that someone comes up and says to you about, losing Kay? Like you wish they would never have said that or
Really, I mean, well, let's look, rather than look at the worst thing, let's look at the best thing. The best thing you can do when you are confronted with someone who has experienced significant loss in their life is just to hug them. I mean, hug them, tell them that you care, and or maybe that you'll be praying, uh, but you can't fix it, and there's nothing that anybody can say that can really make you feel better about the situation. Like, oh, she's in heaven looking down on you,
yeah.
and yada yada yada.
Yeah, we all
Well,
try that do that.
that doesn't work.
Mhm.
What works is just a genuine hug and
Mhm.
just a look of caring. I think because there's nothing that anybody can really do. So that's what I would recommend, as opposed to trying to make the person feel better. You're not going to do that. It's not going
Right.
to happen.
True. No, that's no, you're exactly right. And well, I find out that Kenny has written a book and I'm not in it. But he told me, he said,
You read it.
yeah, well, you want to write, you want to write the forward. Was it the forward or the backward? Which one did you want me to write? You wanted me to write a review.
The forward, I was very blessed. The forward was written by Richie Furay. Richie Furay is a founding member of the Buffalo Springfield, and also a founding member of POCO. And I approached him. I wasn't his friend or anything, but I was his friend on Facebook, but we had never met personally. But I just asked him if he would like to write the forward to my book, and I sent him a copy of my book, and to my surprise, he said yes, and that he experienced many of the same things that I talk about in my book in his own life. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think that was the overriding reason why he decided to write the forward in my book, which I really appreciated. And then I had some friends, including the author of the Daily Bible, Lagarde Smith, write a review of my book, and also an individual who I worked with, who was responsible for putting Sirius XM on the map, Dave Logan. So Dave wrote a review also
Wow. Oh, those.
of my book.
Yeah, those are much more than me doing it. No, I think at that time, it was either uh, the stroke or the quadruple bypass that I had. That I was saying, like, because you're saying, like, it don't feel like you got to rush this. It's, just, you're so sweet about me not being able to get to it to do it. I hated not being able to do that because I wanted to write a review, because
Well,
of personal.
and I asked several people who were unable to do that, including yourself, and I really appreciated, your response, as I did the others. But it's not for everybody. I mean, because it does require some effort, and you have to have the time, and you were distracted. I mean, legitimately so by your own health, and that comes first.
Yeah, true. Thank you. You're so sweet. I'll tell you though, but it's amazing to write a book about your life and to choose the different, episodes in your life that's caused you to be the person that you are and all that and what you went through. That's that's really difficult, I would think, because you have to do a lot of self-examination. You want to go like, now, how much do I want to really put out there? Did you go through that?
Um, I did, and I pretty much put everything out there. Uh, but let me tell you a little secret. What you'll notice, if you look at the book, it says by Kenny Noble Cortez, and then it says underneath my name in smaller letters with Nicole Donahoe. And Nicole was, I mean, uh, in the world, she you refer to someone like that as a ghost writer.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what a ghost writer does, and I can tell you right away, is what I would do is I would have mental notes about what I wanted to talk about in a certain chapter, and she would call me, and then I would just talk off the top of my head. I would say everything about a story, uh, all angles, everybody involved, in my own way. And she would write down everything. She was like a court reporter. She
Mm-hmm.
would write she would write everything down pretty much exactly as I related it to her. And then she would send me that copy. And then when I saw the copy, I would then rewrite what she had written into into prose form so that it was something that was, in my style, and also wasn't so, you know, jumbled all over the place.
No,
Which,
well, yours was. I mean, your style was very conversational. It was good. Like you, because I remember started reading it and going like, he really is a writer. I mean, he's. This is really what. How did he learn this? I don't.
well,
Talk to him.
I didn't really learn it. I mean, I had education, certainly, and in verbal skills, and in the at the Air Force Academy, and I liked the English language. I liked it, but my dad was an extremely capable writer, and I think I inherited some of that. Because I mean, and my granddaughter has also inherited that. She could write books. I mean, in the third grade, she was amazing. She is amazing, and so I think some of it is hereditary, but I enjoy writing. And in fact, when I worked for the K Love Radio Network, the last 7 years of my career, I worked for K Love and Air One, and I was working in news, and it was the first time in my career that I worked assignment based instead of on a clock where as a DJ where I had to be somewhere, at every moment of the clock, there was something I had to do. But with assignments, it was like, well, we gave you an assignment, and then I had to go research it and write it into a story and so forth, and record sound bites and or video bites
Right.
for the story. And that was really challenging, and I really loved doing it. It was great because I wasn't tied to a clock. I mean, I had a deadline, but
Yes.
usually the deadline was 5 or 6 days hence. So it was a lot of fun to do, and I talked to a lot of interesting people and recorded a lot of different people and was able to write to my heart's content. And it wasn't until I didn't start writing the book until I was a caregiver. And in my spare time, uh, I would be in the next room, Kay would be
Mm-hmm.
asleep, and I would write my book, and it came out. I wrote it in less than 3 months. It all just kind of flowed out of me, and
You know,
so
that's what they say. If it takes that, the shorter time means it's probably the best that you've written, because it really does. It's coming from the right place. Now, you had, laid out some things that you had done that were wrong, and you were like, was that, therapeutic? Was it confessional? Was it, what? How'd you feel about that?
well, it's both, and of course, it's a little it's embarrassing to talk about, but but it's the truth, and that is the temptations and the pitfalls of a career in broadcasting are many. And I was in constant company of not only people who weren't necessarily church oriented, let's put it
Mm-hmm.
that way.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was constantly being invited to concerts, to parties, to events where the last thing on anybody's mind was worshiping God, and so that was
That
tough
was a good way
enough.
to put it.
But then, as a DJ, I was approached frequently by callers um, on the phone who were doing everything they could to seduce me, and that was difficult. That was challenging because they often sounded nice, and and it was just it was a tough experience to get through. And unfortunately, I made the mistake of meeting a couple of those people, and I wish I'd never done that. Let's just put it that.
Uh, well, that you're right. People uh, that call in and that build you up and make you feel like you are it, and uh, you are making their day, their year, and they just want to be near you, and could they meet you in person and all that stuff. So you have to go through that and uh, and resist it. But it's you know especially for
Well,
guys. I don't think
the
I've ever had a call like that. Have we ever had a call? Have you ever had a call? No, Richard has never had a call like that.
I can
So,
tell you that the most difficult time was when I worked. I did the morning show at KLOL right there in Houston, Mother's Family. That was 1976 and 1977. And when I first came to work for KLOL, I worked the 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. shift, and I would follow Ed Beecham on the air. And after me at 2 a.m. was a disc jockey. The names were cool. Emil for Real. What a great name that is for a
Emil for
DJ.
real. Yeah.
Emil for Real. He was on from 2 to 6, and then there was let's see, there was I think I got there just after Jack Smack left the station, and Jack Smack had the what he called the Jack Tuck, where he tucked in people in bed, and so it was. I mean, it was progressive radio station. It was a fun time
Mm-hmm.
in radio, and I enjoyed it very much. But between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. there were a lot of lonely people in Houston, and some of them would call me up just to keep from being lonely. And so and because I played more music than I did talk, I
Mm-hmm.
had more time to talk on the phone,
It's
and
like a
that was where I got it.
Sleepless in Seattle type of thing going on.
Kind of, yeah, kind
Did
of.
you see that movie?
Yes, I did, with
Wasn't
Tom
that?
Hanks.
Yes, that was. Uh, that made everybody go like, "Oh, radio's so cool! That's just so cool!" It was just that's how it happens, and but people can fall in love with your voice, and they think they know you, and then maybe you don't look exactly what they thought you'd look like with that
That's true.
voice, and so they go like, oh, you're the same one, right? Okay, let me close my eyes. Okay, you talk to me. Okay,
No,
no,
they wouldn't say it that way. They would say, "Oh, you sound so much taller on the air." And that was like, "Is that a compliment?" I'll take that as a compliment. I'll try to. Or they would say, "You don't look anything like you sound." Well, gee, thanks. I really appreciate
is
that.
that a good thing or a bad thing? That just yeah,
Really?
you have to ask them that because
Yeah.
no, but your voice is totally the same. It just remains so strong. And I was telling you because I'd listen back to whenever we do our shows and listen to them on YouTube, and I go, my voice has gotten so weak, and I felt like within weeks I would be sounding like this, and I'll tell you one thing, oh God, you're all going to hell. But I just felt like that it's weakening, and so I didn't realize you have to strengthen your voice, but your voice sounds great. You sound wonderful, and so
Well, thank you. That's very nice of you to say that. I
you
feel like I've been blessed. My
you
voice
still
has
have your
changed
radio voice.
very little since I mean, really
No,
since my 20s. So I feel very blessed with that and fortunate. Unfortunately, I haven't done much with it since I've been retired. But I'm looking. I have begun again to try and do voiceover work, which I've got a studio, as you can see right here. This is
right,
my studio,
right. Oh, that's
and
cool.
uh, and I do a little bit of voiceover work, but I'd like to do a lot more
But see,
voiceover work.
if you lived back in Houston or in Conroe, you could have your own show, and you could be, you know, making everybody call you up and say,
Is that a job offer?
so I'm sure Richard would love it. In fact, you could take the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday that I'm on, and say,
How about that?
please let him be
Wow.
on first. But no, you would have a job. You'd be able to come in and get this. Community radio is what? Oh, I just got a 3-minute mark. Okay, all right. So I've got to wrap it up and tell everybody, how do they get your book? Tell them how to get your
Okay.
book.
All you have to do is go to Culture Jock, CultureJock, culturejock.net, and that will be how you can get my book. Or you can just go to Amazon and search Kenny Noble Cortez Culture Jock.
Number
And
one seller.
the only thing I will say, and this is a disclaimer, is that when you go to Amazon, and if the first thing you put in is Culture Jock, well, you're going to get more than my book. You're going to get all kinds of jock images that aren't necessarily
Oh,
G rated. So that's just a forewarning
yes.
that you search my name, Kenny Noble Cortez with an S, and then write Culture Jock, and then you'll get the book. And you can there's digital hardcover available, and also the soft cover, which I recommend.
Yes, and we have it up on the screen. I think that he has your your website, and that we have that's up there.
Yeah, I put a link to where you can buy his book, to his website, and his social media in the description.
Very
Cool.
good,
Thank you,
Richard.
Richard.
Richard's there for you, supporting you all the way. Uh, I am just so glad you took the time to join us, and I know you've got an open mic. He's such a triple, quadruple threat because he now they're playing the music. Now I've got to go. Okay. Anyway, Kenny Noble, thank you so much. Have a great open mic tonight and enjoy that. And I just want to say thank you to all our first responders. We want to end the show always with thanking them. And of course, our sponsor, Chris Wootton, Wootton Financial Group. Kenny, thank you. Thank you so much for being here. And okay, guys, go call somebody you love.
Every week, people ask the same two questions. Are they ready to retire? Will their savings last for their lifetimes? Hi, this is Chris Wootton with Wootton Financial Group. Our firm has been in Montgomery County for decades, but the hopes and dreams of the people we serve never change. We help answer these two questions and many more that people have about their uncertain financial future. We have a simple introductory client experience that allows us to get to know the client and includes a few meetings for the client to kick the tires at no charge. We provide a concise, one-page summary that helps the client get a better handle on which questions are the right questions for them. To learn more about Wootton Financial Group's process in helping their clients to a clearer financial future and to see their contact information, visit Cindy Cochran's show page on irlonestar.com/TCCS. Wootton Financial Group is a proud sponsor of the Cindy Cochran Show. Wootton Financial Group is available by phone at 936-449-5952 or visit them on the web at www.woottonfinancial.com. That's www.woottonfinancial.com.
This program is sponsored by the Wootton Financial Group. It is not the intent of Wootton Financial Group to render or offer personalized investment advice or financial planning advice through this radio program or any related website. Wootton Financial Group's participation in this program is limited to providing general information on financial matters and should not be construed as financial recommendation or investment advice. Investment advisory services are offered through Game Plan Advisors, Inc., a registered investment advisor registered with the Securities and Exchange Commission and the state of Texas. Insurance services are offered through Wootton Financial Group, Inc. Game Plan Advisors and Wootton Financial Group, Inc. are affiliated through common ownership, and neither firm is affiliated with The Cindy Cochran Show. No listener should assume that any information presented and or made available on this program serves as the receipt of or a substitute for personalized individual advice from Game Plan Advisors, Wootton Financial Group, or any of their representatives.
Vail Institute, a 501c3 nonprofit, began